All right, Rebecca. One of the biggest challenges I see in this industry is not lack of opportunity, it's where people choose to spend their time. When you run a med spa, we both know this, there's a million directions you get pulled in, but the truth is that not all time spent in your business creates the same level of impact. So, I'd love to talk today about some things that we've discussed that we feel we can invest and use our time wisely. How to use our time wisely.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I mean, honestly, that's kind of how I was thinking about this too, which is like, I've got so much free time. Like,
Said no one ever.
said no one ever. We're doing a lot of said no one ever. And I think that this is coming up a lot. I know that you and I were even just talking about this, which is like, there's so much on our plates. Like, how do you make time for everything? We're talking about like someone who has like a ton, multiple clinics, and you're like,
Mhm.
how do you do it all?
Yeah,
Because it can become a struggle. And I think really boiling down like where to invest our energy, and I always think of it like a return on investment, right? Like, where do we get the highest return?
mhm.
And in this particular scenario, our investment is our time, and makes sense. Like, it's a very, we talked about this, it's a very valuable commodity. So, where is it that as leaders, and I think this is applicable for everyone, to be honest. I said leaders, and technically all people can be leaders. You don't have to have a title for that. Another topic. But this can be whether you're at the front desk, you're a provider, you're a manager, founder, we all still need to understand like where is our time best spent for the biggest impact, because that's where I think people get into trouble,
Yeah.
is spreading themselves too thin in areas they have no business being in.
I agree, and I know we're gonna talk about getting in the weeds, but let's kick it off with vision casting.
Okay.
How do you think about vision casting when in regards to your company, whether you be a manager, to your point, a manager, a founder,
Yeah,
or someone at the front desk?
a provider. um Vision casting is for, in general, your vision. It could be your brand, and the reality is whether you're running a business or not, like, you have a personal brand, period. We all have our own personal brands. Not only that, we all have dreams for our future. So who we want to be, where we want to be, the type of person we want, like, that is something that we might have input, and we might have people that have impact on us that do affect our vision, but ultimately no one can vision cast but us for our
Mhm.
lives. So you have to own that. That's something that's going to require your time. And so the way I think about it is okay, well, where do I want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? And then kind of being very bullish about it, like
Mhm.
identifying like what are my north stars. So when I'm vision casting, saying, okay, I'm going to put my energy, I'm going to put meaningful time into it. It's not something you can be like, well, I want to be a good person. I'd like to have this much money and like, let's go get it. It's not really how that happens. It's, you want to be very specific about it. And if it's your practice, like, I would like to have be 80% full in 6 months. And I want to have a reputation of being the most thorough injector. I want to have a reputation of being kind and having integrity. I want to have the highest number of referrals. If you're front desk, I want to be known for being the highest person to convert leads. I want to, like, these are all things that we cast, but then we reverse engineer. And how do we go attain those now?
Yeah, I love that, and I think we just had a vision summit, so
Hmm.
we're coming off of that, and I think it's great to understand the vision of the company you're working for too. So when your leader is casting this vision of like, here's where we're going, and then to your point, how do I play a role in that personally, knowing that time is very limited. How
Hmm.
do I want to show up? And then how am I investing my time so that I stand out?
Yeah. And I think, again, it's still something you have to do.
Yeah.
So, like, even
Right.
though someone else is casting, like, is telling you their vision,
You got to go
you
do it.
still have to be like, well, how does that play into mine?
Yeah.
Or how do I impact it? And even if it is at your job where you're affecting someone else's vision, helping them realize theirs, there is still a level that impacts yours. So again, this is energy that you cannot, hey, Janelle, I need you to cast my vision for me.
Right.
Like, that's not something you can delegate. So that's something that you have to own.
When we think about time and energy is we have, like I said, a million projects going on, and we
Hmm.
can get really distracted and lost in the weeds. How do you think about productive projects when we think of what do we need to get there based on our vision and our goals?
Yeah, I think this is a huge one. And we were talking a little bit about this as far as like busy work.
Mhm.
And I think you and I have both done this exercise before. We're like, okay, let's talk through what's on our plates. Like, does that something that you have to own? Like, are you the only person that's going to be able to deliver a good outcome? If not, who else is on your team that could take that on? And so, and it's not to say, and so this is what's interesting about being productive. It could be a productive project. It could be a project that you're going to jump in and you say, oh, this is really productive. But I would say, like, you have to be protective of your time and smart with your time. So even if this project is productive, am I the only one or the best one to do it? And will it have a negative impact on where I'm headed or what my goal is if I hand it off? If the answer is no, hand it off.
Delegate.
Delegate it. Give it to somebody else.
Mhm.
Because the reality is like the productive projects that really are going to make an impact, specifically with business in mind, are what's going to impact your vision. And for a founder, a manager, even for providers and front desk, know the numbers. What is your business doing? How's your business performing? Spending time looking at those metrics is time worth spent. And some of it too there might be things that you could hand off, but there might be certain things that it's part of your schedule. You want to know your numbers. I think that's productive.
Yeah, and I think when I look at setting up my week or my day, to your point, time well spent, that hour that I'm taking to go through everything and what I wanna do for the week, because let's be honest, every project is not a 911.
No.
But sometimes in our head, we get overwhelmed and we're like, "Oh my god, I have all this stuff to do." You
Mm-hmm.
need to plan your week in advance and prioritize, okay, what has to be done by this time and
Yeah.
this week, and then plan accordingly.
I think the other thing too, and we'll put it under the umbrella of productive projects, like meetings, because
Mhm.
it could be a productive meeting or a productive project. Maybe productive project's not the right title, but the idea of having meetings, like you mentioned, not everything is a 911. Not every meeting is a 911.
Yeah.
Like, and there are certain meetings where we should be there and we need to like know what's going on, and there are certain ones that we don't need to be. Or do I need to pack this day with everything, all of these meetings to where I have no time to actually build my business? Is that a good investment of time? What do you think?
This is a really good one, Rebecca, because until our new COO, Jeff Peel, came in, he's very protective about meetings and our time. So I think when we're looking at it, like, can we condense certain meetings and
Hmm.
put groups together to where we don't all have one-offs?
Right.
And then it's okay to say no to meetings. And that's the
I had to
biggest thing
learn that
I've
too.
learned, yeah, is it's okay.
I think the hard part, and we were talking about this today too, which is when we're talking about schedules, and I'm like, but you control your schedule, right? Like
Mhm.
we control our schedules. And we talked a little bit about this on the, how to be a good leader and avoid burnout. But you have to protect that valuable time.
Mhm.
And again, it goes back to a return of on investment. If you're just sitting in meetings where you don't have to speak at all, there are
Yeah.
no action items for you, that's a bad investment.
Yeah.
Like,
And everybody always says, "When am I supposed to do the work that's coming out of these meetings?" If all you're
mhm.
doing is filling your time with
And
unnecessary
I
meetings.
do think it's really important that everyone takes ownership of this, like extreme ownership of their own schedule.
Mhm.
Just because someone said you need to, like, they invited you to a meeting doesn't mean you have to go there. Just because people invite you out to dinner every day doesn't mean you have to go out to dinner every day.
Yeah.
Like, you might pick and choose, might skip the McDonald's night and go for the Chipotle night. I don't know. It makes it sound like my nights out for dinner are really terrible. But there, you might have to pick and choose. And so, again, the projects that you invest, can someone else do this just as well? Maybe even better, hand it off. Is this meeting something where I'm going to actually need to be there that helps me move forward or move the needle on my vision or the vision that I'm contributing to? No, it's not a good investment of your time. And then making sure that, you're actually being able to do something that has an impact that only you can
Yeah.
affect.
So this next one is, I know, a favorite of a lot of ours and people, and so important when it comes to investing in time, which is training.
Hmm.
So how do you look at this as, like, from a time investment standpoint when you're looking at training providers or yourself?
When I look at this, I'm thinking more, especially under this topic, myself, like thinking of how we're investing our time.
Mhm.
In this particular one, I would say, like, you're training yourself. I think it's so important to make time to do this, whether that's reading a book, which we talked about, like if there's a topic that you're trying to learn, grabbing a book on it. So like maybe it's marketing and you want to learn more about marketing, and I mean, it's evolved so much. So grabbing something like that. If it's leadership that you want to evolve and develop, have a leadership book going. If it's a webinar as a provider or front desk, I mean, you don't have to be a provider to jump into those webinars. I think it's really beneficial, even if you're not a provider, to get in. That's part of your training. So all of those opportunities are such a good use of your time because it's going to help you grow. It's going to help you realize your vision. Again, use that as your North Star. If you want to be the best at something, then you're not going to be able to be stagnant.
Yeah.
You're going to have to invest in training and time. Get yourself in front of a training. If you know something's going on, ask to be involved. If there's not one available, raise your hand, head up a training so that you get more people in the room that are like-minded that'll help add to that. So I think that's a huge resource, definitely worth investing energy and time in.
I agree. I like that you said get yourself involved. You can't just wait and sit back and expect to just learn or grow exponentially. I mean, you'll grow exponentially if you're putting yourself out there. I also think something that I like, if there's people that you admire, pick their brain, try and spend a little bit more time with them or get some time on their books and really ask how they learned what they did. What are some takeaways? I think that's huge in helping get you to where you want to be.
And on that note, the next one is mentorship, which I think goes hand in hand, which mentorship, we think of like being mentored. We both have mentors that we look back on and we've talked about that have got us here. But I honestly feel like it is a good use of your time and energy to mentor others.
Yeah, I do too. I think there's a lot of positives to this. When we invest in bringing and up-leveling leaders, it makes our workload lighter, first of all, because we're helping groom them and then they're taking on more productive projects and looking at the business differently. So now they're coming to us with solutions and things that they've already identified instead of us having to go to them with that. I think it makes our business stand out when we have a lot of really strong leaders and people who are just doing the right things. It's elevating all of us. I also think you're building your bench. So you're building other strong leaders so that there's growth and movement within your company. You have someone teed up to go to that next level. And then it promotes this level of excitement and culture in your company because you can see that there's a lot of growth happening and opportunities.
You'll also get retention from that, which I know we're not talking about that, but one of the side effects in a positive way, people stay. When they feel like you're investing your time and energy, which again, everyone knows is limited. And if you are building a business, whether it's your, a provider, you're building your business, it's a manager practice or, front desk, you're trying to help fill the books, whatever that looks like, everyone knows you have limited time. So when you're willing to then invest in someone else and to help them level up, like that makes you have a sense of pride. Like they're taking their time to invest in me. They see something in me or they're wanting me to succeed.
Yeah, it's
like, people
so motivating.
will be so loyal to you.
Yeah.
And they'll work hard for you. So, and it's not, and I'm not saying this because I want it to be a selfish aspect. It's just true. It's just one of the benefits of it. And I think that mentorship is an oversight for a lot of people because I think the assumption is to be a mentor, you have to be older. You have to have been in whatever field you're in for a very, very long time. And then that's how you become into this like Yoda role of being a mentor. But the reality is you have some knowledge and you're willing to share it and invest it in someone else. You're a mentor. So anyone can be a mentor. And I think it's fulfilling. Again, we talked about for the person receiving it, but also for the person giving it. So even though you have limited time, to your point, it raises people up around you, makes your job easier. But I just think it's like one of the coolest things to see people that you've invested time and energy in come along and
be inspiring. It helps. It helps everybody grow.
I agree.
Okay. So we've talked about vision casting, productive projects, training, mentorship. The last piece of this,
the most important piece of this,
is have fun while you're doing this. We need to be balanced in all of this. You can't have fun if you're bogged down in the weeds, miserable because you can't figure out how to manage your time appropriately.
Yeah.
You're not able to show up and be what your team needs. So a big piece of this, sometimes you got to reset your mindset and reset your mindset.
Yeah, I like that. Should be on a shirt, reset your mindset.
Reset your mindset and get back in it with looking at the lens of like having a good time and not being so serious all the time. We can still get our job done without being super serious.
I feel like we've both proven that. And I think if you're miserable, your team is miserable. Like there is no benefit to that.
Mhm.
And if you create an environment that like is super stressful and strict, nobody's laughing, nobody's having a good time, nobody is staying. Like
Yeah.
people are miserable, they don't want to be there. And when I've gone into those teams where teams are miserable, like you feel it. And if I
Mhm.
feel it, clients feel it. So that's not great. But also like we talk about fun, like have fun. Like what does that mean? How do you get there? And I think a lot of that has to do with stuff outside of work.
Mhm.
Like making sure we talked about like protecting our schedules, making sure that you have time for actual fun. Like be balanced, and that fun looks different for everybody. Like for some people fun might be sitting down reading a book. Other
Mhm.
people might be going on a hike, other people concerts. Bottom line is we have to allow time to fill our cup back up. And I talk about that a lot, and I have literally thought about cups where like you're pouring out, you're pouring out, you're pouring out, you're trying to reach your vision, you're mentoring, you're doing all this training. Like at the end of the day, when you keep doing this, like what do you end up with?
Nothing.
An empty cup. So part of this of like prioritizing fun and doing something for yourself and having this balance fills the cup back up. And I think a lot of that too for me is, I know I've talked about this briefly, but in my past is I poured out that entire cup, but I'm not the only one that's negatively impacted, and my team is not the only team that's negatively impacted. My family is negatively impacted because if I have nothing left in my cup, it's not just for work. I have nothing left in my cup from my family, which also is not
Yeah.
fun. It doesn't make me happy. And if all of this, heaven forbid, anything went to crap, what you have is your family, you have your
Right.
friends. And if you've wildly neglected them and time for yourself and investing in them, then it's going to be really hard to rebuild. And so I think that if you prioritize yourself and having fun, taking care of your family, spending time with friends, it's going to feed your soul. You're going to be able to give back, but you're going to also be able to give back to the people that are with you. And I think that to me is the best investment of your time and energy.
I agree.